the clarity that comes from our vice president. Really do appreciate it. David, you're reporting on this news of the economy every single day. Joe Biden just thinks it's, improper the way the national media has been covering it because everything's going so well.
Yeah, he's trying to kill the messenger, but the message is very clear and Americans know it, that Bidenomics is really not only killing the economy, it's killing the American dream. I mean, personal income, when you judge it by the time that Biden took office until today, personal income has been hit hard by inflation. It's way down. Personal debt, by the way, is way up. Mortgage costs, that really does define the American dream. The ability to buy a home has almost doubled. It's up 90% from the average monthly payment on a home is $1,700. It was $1,700 a month when Biden came into office. Now it's $3,300 a month. That is a 90% increase in mortgage costs. It's the same if you buy a car on with some kind of credit, or you buy, whether it's used or new, and credit card debt. If you're unfortunate enough to have any credit card debt, you're paying as much as 29% for your credit card debt, and that's up to $1 trillion. That's how much Americans own in credit card debt. I mean, it's just out of control, and Democrats and Republicans know it.
Kayleigh, I don't think that Joe Biden has ever actually really defined for the American people what Bidenomics is. He talks about, well, if it's a good result, that's Bidenomics, but he's never really defined it. As best I can tell, it's more government, more spending. But other than that, I mean, how would you define what Bidenomics is?
Bidenomics means the crippling of the working and middle classes. That is what it is in summary. And I'll tell you what, even Biden knows that his economic policies are a failure. And you want to know how I know that? Because he just gave his own federal employees a 5.2% pay raise to make up for the fact that inflation is eating into their wallets as well. And think about what that means for a second. That means that the people who have helped implement Biden's disastrous economic policies are the only ones who actually get to benefit from it, because we, the American taxpayers, get to then pay for their pay increases. That is Bidenomics in a nutshell.
And David, one of the fastest growing sectors in the jobs numbers are government jobs. I mean, I look at where the fastest growing sector is, and it's just more government. That's not going to make the country better.
You know, it's not only government, it's services that involve the government to a great extent, like healthcare and education. Those are up as well. But all of those require the government. And what they want to do, this is the socialist ideal. They want to turn the private sector into the government sector, and they are doing it right now. It's a frightening process. And of course, the green energy program, we haven't talked about $1 trillion in green energy spending. We've had a great year for the stock market. Stock market's up almost 20% in 2023. But the one sector that's failing, you know what that sector is? Green energy. If you were stupid enough to invest in green energy, thinking that the government was going to fund it all, it can't, because it's not working. So green energy is a failure. It's just everything the government touches turns to the opposite of gold. I don't want to say it on TV what that is.
So, Kayleigh, and David talked about it, the $1 trillion that Americans have taken on in credit card and consumer debt. I mean, those numbers are hard to get away from, because you're paying upwards of, as David said, 20% oftentimes, trying to get out from under all that massive spending. So I don't know how you turn the corner on that, but you got to reduce the amount of money that the government is spending.
Absolutely. And this is why Biden is lashing out at the media, because he realizes that there's no amount of spin that can make up for the reality that Americans are on the ground facing. We've mentioned the credit card debt. We've mentioned the high interest rates, the high mortgage rates. There was another data point that came out this week that homelessness has hit a record high under the Biden administration. Americans across the board are suffering, except for really the upper class. It's the middle class that is bearing the brunt of this. It's the lower class that is bearing the brunt of Bidenomics. And those are the people that Biden seems to have the least amount of sympathy for. Essentially, what the Bidenomics message is stop being poor.
Well, I got to tell you, when you pour millions of people illegally into this country, They got to get housing. And if you don't think that that's affecting the price of housing in this country, that's a big, big issue. David Asman, Kaylee McGee White, thank you again for joining us on this special edition of Hanity. More